Hi, everyone, and welcome back for another question of the week here on Divorce and Relationships Decoded. I am one of your hosts, Jennifer Perri. I'm a CDC certified divorce coach, and I am joined by my co host, Dr. Deborah Wilder, who is a divorce and relationship specialist. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Jennifer. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. So, I got a good question for you this week. I know we always talk about them together, but I always like to throw them at you first just to get your real solid opinion on everything. So, the question this week is, how do you deal with resentment before it poisons the relationship?
That's a great question because resentment really, if it is not dealt with, it can be a relationship killer. So I think resentment generally happens when a need isn't met or when like boundaries are crossed, when things happen that create unrest and discontent and unresolved issues that sort of build up over time. So resentment takes time to build up, but the best way to have a relationship poisoned is to not deal with it. So talking about things, identifying what it is that you feel, under what circumstances, what those triggers are, trying to identify what it is what are those needs that are not being met? What are those boundaries that are being crossed? What are the words unsaid? What are the actions not done? Really, the way to deal with resentment is to talk about things as they happen, address things as a couple as they happen, but do it in a nice way. When you're dealing with conflict, do it in the spirit of resolving conflict, in the spirit of resolution. When you're talking about a problem, if you do it with a positive intent versus an attack, the positive intent is going to really help a lot. When there is resentment that starts to build, as you can deal with it at those times, then you stand a much better chance of that resentment not becoming poison in the relationship. So deal with it kindly, be able to, and this is a skill to learn how to communicate. We talked about this before. Communicate your needs and communicate your thoughts and feelings and all of that in a way that is received. Again, it's not about an agreement, but it's about having your partner or anybody hear what you want them to hear, understand what you want them to understand. So when resentment starts building up, let's try to figure out what it is that our needs are at that time, or what it is that we're wanting or hoping for that we're not getting or that's not happening, which is leading to the resentment, and then being able to share that and come up with some solutions, come up with some proposals to deal with that, to help fix those problems, but to do it with kindness and empathy and thoughtfulness and consideration and things like that. Because I think we've all experienced resentment, and sometimes, and you and I both work in the divorce field, of course, and so we see the end result of sometimes it's too late. Sometimes it really is too late. The resentment has been so strong or so long lasting that it may be really hard, if not impossible, to come back from that. Recognizing what resentment feels like, what it may look like. If I'm resentful, how might I show it? Am I going to be sarcastic? Am I finding myself sarcastic? Am I finding myself being mean? Am I withholding affection? What am I doing to either express knowingly how I feel, or maybe not even recognizing how I feel, but I'm aware that I'm starting to behave differently with this person? Self-awareness is very important, and then bringing that to the other person's attention and dealing with it nicely, not in an accusatory way. I'm curious what your thoughts are about that, because I know you see it with the folks you work with as well.
I feel the exact same way you do. I think one of the biggest things that you and I talk about a lot in relationships is communication. I know a lot of the women that I work with, it was a breakdown in communication where they didn't realize their partner felt that way, or they didn't communicate with their partner how they felt. One of the topics we're talking about soon is the love languages, understanding how you love each other and how you show love for each other. So I think communication is key. And I try to encourage my clients in the financial space and even in the coaching space to have those kitchen table conversations often. My husband and I do something every Friday night, whether it's sitting downstairs talking with each other or we go and do something. We're always talking about our life, our what we're going to be doing next. We are very big communicators. And I think that if you can just continue to communicate as much as possible, as often as possible to your partner, and not making it as setting demands in what it is that you want. But I think having a conversation starting from a place of love always. So I've had some really hard conversations with not only my husband and family members, but clients as well. I think if there's one thing that you get that we try to share with people is knowledge is power, and communication is probably one of the most key things that you can have open in your relationship. So I think knowing on the front end, if you're going to run into things in life, if something's going to happen down the road, if it's a job decision, if it's something that happens with the kids, if it's something that happens with a family member, and you've had those conversations about when one of these things happens, this is how we're going to approach it. The more you can communicate about that when it happens, the resentment's not going to be there. You're not going to resent each other because you would have talked about it before. Now, we can change, obviously, as we get older. I think women go through way more changes than men go through. I was going to say that.
Yeah,
but I just think even for myself, I'll be 54 this year. I look back on the past 30 years of my life and my relationships, and a lot about myself and what my needs were have changed as well. But I've communicated them, or I've tried to communicate them in the best way possible. I firmly believe if the person in that relationship is important enough to you, they're worth it. You're worth it.
I totally agree. Yeah, 100%.
So that was a great question. That's definitely one that I could say almost you could prevent it from happening in certain areas of your life. Now, life's going to happen. Things are going to come and hit you completely unaware, didn't expect it. And we've all had that happen in our lives. So you may have to be in a position to pivot and regroup. But I think if you can manage to have conversations about money, manage to have conversations about how you would face certain challenges and have open communication, there could be a lot of things that you don't have to be resentful for because you've handled it on the front end. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think unresolved conflict is going to lead to resentment if it's not resolved in time. If it's allowed to grow and grow, then resentment is present and it's more difficult to deal with. And that's where it can become toxic or become like poison. But unresolved conflict is not a good thing. So the more that we can deal with our thoughts and feelings in a healthy way in a relationship, the less chance we have of feeling resentful. Yeah. So the more we're able to communicate well and in a healthy way, then the healthier our relationships are going to be, certainly down the road.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are listening, and for the person who sent in this question, if you need help, we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. You're going to see how you can connect with Dr. Deborah Wilder and myself in the description below. And thank you again for the question. And if you have questions, make sure that you send them to us at questions@drdecoded.com. We will get to them as soon as we possibly can. And thank you again for joining us. Thank you, my friend, for being here and always giving such incredible advice.
Thank you. Likewise. Always love it.
We will be here next week for another question of the week. And don't forget, our new episode will drop this Friday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.